What if the reason that you feel lost right now isn't because something is wrong with you? What if it's because you're right in the middle of something you were never taught how to recognize? Because most men hit a point in life where things stop making sense. You've done what you're supposed to do, but something feels off and you don't have a name for it. But I think there is one. There's a concept called the hero's journey. It was originally talked about by a guy named Joseph Campbell. There are 12 steps to it, but if you strip all that down, here's what it really means. A hero goes on an adventure, is victorious in a decisive crisis, and he returns home transformed. It's what happens when the life you built stops working the way it used to, and you're forced to figure out who you are without it. And not in theory, in real life. And the reason nobody talks about this for men is because it doesn't look heroic when you're in it. Certainly doesn't make you think of hero's journey. It looks like confusion, burnout, disconnection. It looks like feeling lost. At some point, you built a life. You followed the righteous path. You worked hard. You provide. You're reliable. You've handled all your responsibilities. And for a while, this has worked for you. It works for most people most of the time. You had a structure, you've had direction, a sense of who you are. There was a time in my life where everything felt pretty clear. I've been there. I was in control at work, at home. I was a leader in my social circle. I had it all figured out. I felt like I was at the top of my game. Then something shifts, the disruption. It doesn't always happen all at once. Most of the time, it's subtle. You start feeling restless, disconnected, tired in a way that sleep doesn't really fix. You might not even be able to explain it. In fact, you probably can't explain it. You just know something is off. For me, this showed up in a way I didn't really expect. I took a new position at work, and at first everything was fine. Things began to shift, however, after about the first year, and I started to feel a little disconnected, out of sorts. Between this and some things in my personal life, I started really taking a hit to my confidence, and this deepened feelings of inadequacy that probably have lingered for many years deep down in my core memories. Things just kind of began to take root in a very negative way for me. But here's where things get important. You see, this is the part that most men don't recognize. This is the resistance. And resistance doesn't look like denial. It looks like being responsible. It sounds like, I'm just tired. It's just stress. I'll deal with it later. So you keep going because that's what you've always done. This was true for me. I didn't really talk about it. Um, I didn't slow down. I just kept moving. I just thought to myself, this is life. This is what responsibility does to you. Just deal with it. That was my resistance. Now, why do we resist? Look, everything we've been taught says keep going, stay strong, handle it, take care of your business, right? So when something inside you starts to shift, you don't see it as a signal. You just see it as something to push through, just another obstacle, just another thing to overcome. Like I told you, this is just life, man. This is what happens. But here's the problem. If you stay in that place long enough, it doesn't go away. It turns into something else. You start pulling back from people. You get shorter, more irritated. You feel disconnected from things you used to care about. You're still functioning, but you don't feel like yourself anymore. And that can go on and on and on. That can linger for a long time. I think this is what happened to me. Look, if I'm being honest, this is where I was for a pretty good while. I have my days even now. But for me, things got pretty bad. I was miserable at work, and that bled over into my personal life. I hadn't yet consciously identified that I was in a bad place that could be fixed. That's the key. I was just going deeper and deeper without realizing what was really happening to me. This is the part most men never say out loud. Why do I feel off when everything looks fine? Or why am I not enjoying anything anymore? Or maybe it's, why do I feel disconnected from people that I care about? That's confusion. That's not failure. You see, this is the middle of the story. In every real version of this journey, there's a point where the hero loses his way. It's where things stop making sense. But that is not the end of the story. It never is. That's the turning point. For me, at some point, I started realizing this wasn't just going to fix itself. I realized I needed to get my confidence back. The guy that was once in control and on top of things, he was still in there somewhere. And I knew that I was going to need to be proactive in addressing my situation. I was going to have to take the bull by the horns and get to work. This was, I guess, sort of an awareness shift for me. You see, this is where things begin to change. Not because everything suddenly gets easier, but because you start asking a very different question than you've been asking yourself. It's not, what's wrong with me? Because trust me, that's going to happen. But it's more of, what is this trying to show me? At this point, you find yourself in the rebuild. In this part, it's not dramatic. It's small. It's quiet. It's things like being honest about how you're actually doing. It's about reaching out instead of isolating. It's about paying attention to what's draining you. It's about making one decision that moves you forward. That's how you rebuild. Look, if you're in this place right now, feeling stuck, disconnected, unsure of what's next, you're not broken. You're not behind. And you're not the only one going through it. You're not lost. You're in the middle of your hero's journey. If you're a man in midlife and this hit something for you today, don't ignore it. Pay attention to it. That's where the change starts. And I'll see you in the next one.